But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope, and officially it's Wednesday, and we have a lot to talk about on today's show. But before we get into all that and much, much more, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and drop a message into the chat. Now, there's been a lot of talk these last few days about getting younger, cheaper, and a possible change of direction. But after all the speculation, rumours and hearsay, I'm delighted to say we're staying exactly the same. And as you can see, I'm joined by Gareth Ellis.
Good evening. Happy New League year.
Lee Gowland.
Hey, fellas, I was just about to say you're premature. Is it not 9 o'clock or is it 8 o'clock, the new league year?
It's 8 o'clock for us, so.
Well, I didn't mention it in the intro. And last but not least, Fredo's unconfirmed. It is, of course, Naji Karar. Obviously taking a vow of silence tonight.
Yeah, I was just thinking, has his audio gone off? He is really quiet this week.
Speechless.
Now, chaps, as it's officially the start of the new NFL league year, either now or in an hour, depending on who you want to believe, all the moves we've seen over the last few days are now officially official, which I know has been a huge talking point on our own Discord. There's been a lot of discussion about all the moves the 49ers have made or not made, depending on which side of the fence you're on. And our group has been very active, which has been great to see. But before we go down that rabbit hole, as always, I'm keen to get all your thoughts and how you're feeling. So Lee, over to you, buddy. Where do we start with free agency in the 49ers?
So I would say we always expected this to happen at some point. But I'm still surprised it happened this year. Yeah, so we were expecting it to happen. We were expecting to fall off that cliff because of the way the contracts were structured. And to be honest, I think I don't know about you guys, but I think I've been a little bit naive because I think all the warning signs have been there. It's just that we've missed them. And I think that must have been a subconscious thing. And yeah, it's not going to be this year. It's probably going to be the year after. And now all of a sudden we find ourselves in, I'm not going to call it a rebuild, I'm going to call it reload still. Because I think a rebuild would suggest you've basically got nothing. But we've got something. We've got plenty of really good players on the team. So I think it's a reload rather than a rebuild. I like the noise that's come out of Santa Clara as far as the conversation around Kyle and John. For me, forget the players. I'm going to concentrate on this little bit of a shift in the dynamic. It's something I've mentioned time and time again over the last few seasons. The problem we've always had, I believe, in player personnel, bringing them in, was that Kyle had far too much authority to do stuff. So Kyle brought John in. Kyle was the one that wanted John Lynch to come in and be GM. And to me, that never ever works properly. So it's normally the opposite way around. The GM brings in the head coach. And now it seems to be shifting to the point where John Lynch is the number one guy now. And Kyle's going to be there to do his job as coach. And to me, I think that bodes well. Obviously, last year, we hit on the draft. I think we can all agree it was a really good draft. We need to do that again this year. But it's more interesting to see how we go about free agency now. And obviously that's what we're going to be talking about today. So how am I feeling at the moment? I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. I am a little bit nervous. But I'm also more intrigued than nervous. And hopefully that's a lot more positive than what maybe you were expecting.
Well, I kind of know how Gareth's feeling, and I will come back to Gareth because I did ask him before we went live, but Nadji didn't really get a chance. So how were you feeling, Nadji? It's been a bit of a crazy 48 hours, depending on which side of the fence you're on.
Yeah, maybe it's not what we expected, but as I said, and as I thought all day, if you look at each individual move one by one in the ether, they all make complete sense. And yeah, the volume is a bit scary. There's a lot of players, but ultimately, I do think you can find a good reason for every single one of them. It doesn't mean some of them don't hurt, and we are gonna miss a lot of people. And that started with Debo. As much as we kind of like, yeah, okay, it's fine. I'm gonna miss watching Debo in the Niners jersey, and other players that we're gonna get onto. I'm gonna miss watching as Niners. But as I said, I think ultimately, I think it was a good free agency for us so far. I'm pretty happy with what we've done, and you never win the Super Bowl in February or March. It's March.
You usually
I
win
did
it
talk-
in February.
You do win in February, indeed. Yes. I did talk about some kind of like good feel getting into training camp, and maybe we missed on that. But also, this is the part of the year where business matters more than football, and we're not maybe as versed into the business side of it and how it makes sense in terms of contract and money and where we would be next year and 2 years time. And this is more into the Wall Street side of things than the grass on the field side of thing. And then, but I'm fine. I'm totally cool with almost every move we made. There's a couple I really hurt. Really, I would have liked us to keep, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna-
Yeah, no, I feel good.
Getting all that. So, Gareth, I asked you off air how you were feeling because, as I said, there's been a lot of chat in our group, which is always good to see. Some people ultra positive, some people doom and gloom, some people it's a rebuild, some people are calling it a recalibration, as Bebop has said there. Easy for me to say, clearly not. So, how are you feeling, Gareth? You said to me you were a bit more positive than some of the people you've seen.
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the first words out of Lee's mouth was naive, and I think that was right. The only thing that surprised me is that we've been surprised, because if we look at the movements, we knew most of them were going to happen. There is a couple. I think Juice was a bit of a surprise, and that hurts.
Yeah.
Collins, I thought, had done enough to hang around. I think Floyd, we probably knew was potentially going to go as well. But I think it's the volume. When you look through the individual players, we weren't going to pay Aaron Banks $77 million contract. Someone has. Good luck to him. It's the amount, and I think it's very close to rebuild myself, because I think we've cleaned house. We have cleaned a lot out. I think we've just taken a big dead cap hit. I think the dead cap is a big driver of this year, and I think other teams have shown it. If you can pour all of your problems, your players too old, contracts too big, if you can shovel it all into 1 year, you can very, very quickly put that year behind you. And I'm pleased with what we've done. I think we talked about needing to make some really tough decisions that I think the team has put a lot about the relationship with players. Sometimes maybe not put the team first enough, maybe. And I think this has shown that Shanahan and Lynch, or Lynch, whoever, is able to make some really tough decisions. It would be interesting to know how that dynamic, has that been driven from the top? Has that been driven from whoever's got Parag Morant's spreadsheet at the moment and has said these things have got to go? You're going to have to do it. That would be interesting to know. But I'm pleased that it's been done, because I think the worst place to be is that team like the Saints. I remember 6 years ago, the Saints were in cap hell. They still are, and they've not got any better, and they won't get any better until they whip the Band-Aid off. And I think this is a bit of a shock, but I'm happy that we've done what needed to be done. And let's see how it pans out.
I mean, before we dive into the moves, if you are needing some optimism, 49ers fans watching, focus on the coaching upgrades, the future draft picks. Salah, Boyer, a giant upgrades over last season. And anyone thinking the 49ers would run it back, all gas, no brakes with this defense, the 29th ranked run defense and the 26th ranked overall defense, you had to be fooling yourselves. I mean, Floyd being released symbolised to me that they were thinking Bosa was going to come in. That hasn't happened for those people who were tuning in. But I do think they wanted to go a bit bigger on the edge anyway, and we're going to get into that. But do you not feel, chaps, that this is what good teams do? As you've said there, we weren't paying Aaron Banks the 70-odd million pound. And, you know, it's not a rebuild league because we haven't lost Kittle, we haven't lost Warner, we haven't lost Bosa, we haven't lost CMC. You know, it's not like we're tearing it all down and we're saying, right, everybody's available for trade. That, to me, would be a rebuild. Is that fair to say, Lee?
Yeah, but I'm going to disagree with you about this is what good teams do. This isn't what good teams do because we've left it too late to do this. We've given contracts to players that we should never really have given contracts to.
Yeah.
When Debo wanted trading, we should have traded him. When Ayuk wanted traded, we should have traded him. That's what good teams do. That's what Belichick did at the Patriots. He never stood for a player doing that kind of behaviour to get a contract, and he got rid of them straight away.
I meant
now.
If you look at the Chiefs,
now though. I meant like as in now they've started right.
I think it was a necessity.
Happened. But
I
think
it was a necessity to do it now, while Brock Purdy's still young, to right the ship, get the finances in order, make that structural change in the back office, i.e. the John Lynch is now going to be in charge of all personnel. He's not going to have Kyle sprinting up the stairs on the day that we think Ayuk's getting traded, because Ayuk's rang him to say, you know what, I've made a big mistake, I'll accept what you offered us 4 weeks ago, to beg John to call off the trade. I think the dynamic has shifted, and I think we're more now set up as a more traditional front office coaching staff. And I think that there, like I said before, for me, that's the biggest thing. Yes, I love the coaching changes. Bringing in Salah was the best idea ever. Obviously, we thought it was going to be like a 1 year rental. Come in, win us the Super Bowl, we'll get you a head coaching job, and off you go. It's not quite looking that way now. I think that's changed a little bit, which is also it's also optimistic that that's the case, because it could be that Salah knew what was happening in the background. Because I don't think this has happened overnight. I think this has been in the running for a while now. So that means that he's in for maybe 2-3 seasons.
He wants to build a new D,
Yeah.
I think, because it's
exactly.
the old D has been flushed. I think the rebuild
So we might be having stability.
is the defensive side, because the offense is more retooling. You're right, but defense.
I want to
there's
get
a
back
handful of keepers.
to this notion of you don't think this is what good teams do. I completely agree with Paul. I think that is exactly what good teams do, except that we've put a spin on it, which is by being a little less ruthless and a little bit more having those people on the team and being good by those people. I remember the Belichick years where he would just cut players left and right and center for no reason whatsoever. I don't think we would do that, because it feels like we kind of are nicer to our players and the players are nicer to the team back. I think it's kind of a mix in between being ruthless, and it's a really tight rope to walk on, to be the guy that you give a big contract because he's played well, but also he might just be at the end of his career, so you don't need to do that. And then you kind of have to find a balance. And I think this year we've tipped kind of like, let's get rid of what we don't need kind of thing. And the last year being the poor year that we had on performance, it wasn't just the injuries, but the performance wasn't good. Kind of like tipped us towards we have to be a bit more ruthless this year. I think this is what I think we are. I think we kind of...
Yeah. I think we were ruthless as far as Juice was concerned.
Yeah.
So last season we asked him to take a pay cut.
A big pay cut.
Yeah, a big pay cut, which he did for the team. And then we've cut him, but we didn't cut him before free agency started. We wait until the free agency had kicked off. And then we've cut him.
Yeah, but you don't know what has happened. Maybe we tried to renew his contract and he was having
Well,
none
we can
of
say
it.
the same thing about Belichick and the Patriots, mind you, when you said they were cutting left, right and centre for no reason. There's always a reason that we don't necessarily know about.
This is what I'm saying. So I think this year we have been taking a bit of a wider stroke to it. and making moves that might hurt us. But also, if we look at how Juice has been playing last year, I don't think it's a big loss.
No,
Especially,
I agree.
there's also the fact that, and we can talk about this. I think the main reason why we've done all this is because the culture change. We are not the Jimmy G Niners anymore. We do not need to run the ball 40 times a game. We have a quarterback, and we are going to play a different way. We don't need a fullback.
We
necessarily.
hope we've got a quarterback.
We hope
We
yeah,
have one under
exactly.
contract, yeah. He's not
You
going
know,
anywhere, Gareth.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I know.
I feel like, and we said it game after game during the review this season, we have been found out. We cannot score points anymore. Defense are playing us too well. So something needed to change, and it starts right now. And I know it's shocking, but I think this is what's happening. It's a culture change, and we're going to see a totally different offense next season. I believe. So
Yeah, and
this is what's happening.
and I think that needs to happen. You need to reinvent yourself, and I think one of the ways of doing that is letting those players go. I think we talked about how we kept on with everybody and wanted another go round and another go round, and it worked with all those NFC Championship games and Super Bowl, and we didn't quite get it over the line. It's fascinating. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But if we'd won it last year, I wonder whether we would have. If we hadn't had the injuries, we probably knew we weren't going to pay Greenlaw, we weren't going to pay Hufanga. We would have probably traded them, but they both got injured. Yeah. We may well have traded Debo before the trade deadline, but Ayuk got injured. I do wonder. The team, we've been really scuppered by those injuries, I think, last year to those players who have since moved on. And I think we were stuck with their contract values at the time. Not that they were huge, but we couldn't move them on because they were injured. We weren't going to keep them on, and we kind of got a little bit stuck. And I think that's made it even more radical change this year, because we haven't been able to stage those players leaving as we might have otherwise if they'd been fit.
We talk a lot on this show about availability matters. The 4 defensive starters who missed the most time last season: Hufanga, Greenlaw, Ward, Hargrave. Now, like Nadji said in Discord, Greenlaw going was a big loss, but he's bet on himself. He's got paid at Denver. He's gone. We all knew Ward was leaving. Hufanga, again, has got paid. And we've talked about the start of the show about the defense changing, and Lee said there, Salah coming in. It looks like it's more than just a 1-year rental. But for those people who maybe play Madden, who might turn off the salary cap, it isn't $9 billion a year. Look at the dead money that we've hit this year. Now, for those people, Gareth, who were worried about that, the Buffalo Bills took on $50 million of dead cap this time last year. They traded Diggs, they lost Hyde, Poyer, Gabe Davis, Floyd in free agency, and they got to the AFC Championship game. So I am confident, Lee, and that's why I asked how you were feeling at the start of the show, because I have been a little bit surprised within our group. I haven't been on social media as much. I mean, there was a big debate whether we should be breaking this news on Discord because it wasn't official. So there's the pun. Michael, I know you're a good sport, buddy. So thank you for pointing out on Monday that all this conjecture was all pie in the sky because nothing was official till Wednesday. But let's face it, the 49ers are definitely a team you want to cover if you're creating content because there's definitely no quiet moment. So, Lee, you're smirking there. Have you seen this message from Chris Wood before we get the list up? That if you hadn't spent the full cap
I've got it
on the
hand.
gold predictor count. But again, while we're talking money, Chris has dropped there. The ultimate insider, everybody. We're so lucky on the 49er Faithful UK. So Collins has got a 2-year deal at the Browns, $20 million.
Where have the Browns got this money? It's all tied up in Watson and now Garrett. It shows it's that salary cap illusion, isn't it?
Didn't they restructure Watson?
Yeah, they are. There's a ton of void years. It's going to cost them forever. But
Forever.
There's also this thing where for some reason, I don't know why, but it feels like everybody's getting paid a lot of money, and I have a feeling there's a lot of people that there's a lot of people that are going to regret some signings.
Buyers regret.
I know. I think it's something that's kind of new that's coming in is not looking just at the raw number of contract, but the percentage of cap that a certain player has. And it would seem like 10 million a year isn't actually that much in terms of cap percentage. It's probably about 3 or 4%, which is kind of what you want for an interior D tackle. That's okay. So could we have paid that? Yes. But as you said, I think Saleh came in and was like, nah, I don't want him. You might as well just get rid of him, right? There's no point keeping big contracts and try and go cheaper. I think the Jonathan Allen contract was huge. We would have never paid that. That's essentially the amount of money we said to Armstead we not give him. So why would we give it to somebody else? That doesn't really make any sense. It's not just like, oh, did we do well? Did we not? There's so many variables and things to look at. I think first of all, I think what we need to do is look at each player individually, not as a big whole, everything that's happened, and then we can talk about whether that makes sense or not. And I can see a couple here I would have preferred having on my team, but I think the Aaron Banks one is to me is the least no-brainer ever. We were not going to pay him $77 million for 3 years. That's so much money. And we did do this in 2019, 2020, when we let Tomlinson go. And we found a replacement, and it was seamless. So I have full confidence that we can do that. I don't know if you guys agree with me on this one, but I don't have a problem with it.
I think Salah has had a lot of time to look at the upcoming draft, and I think he must like what he sees out of what's available in terms of particularly what he can pick up with some of those mid-round picks that we've got. And I think that must be one of the reasons why we've been prepared to let so many people go. I mean, if nothing more, you just need the bodies, and we've hardly got anyone left on the D-line. There's Bosa, Sammy O, I think, has got another contract because he was restricted or because it was his first year, wasn't it? So I can't really think who else might be left. So that line's got to come from somewhere. I do think the free agency this year does seem to have been even a bit more of a frenzy. And I do think whether there's some other GMs and head coaches have panic bought a little bit because suddenly there seems to have been a load of movements. And actually, you know what, sitting back, picking up these unheralded names I've not heard of, players that I must say aren't really on my radar. But I think they're pros who've been around the league for a while, and they seem to be picking up need where we can find it affordable. And I think actually waiting and seeing what is available, I think some of the players, their salaries demands begin to drop, and we've picked up good players. Remember we picked up Tayshaun Gibson, who had that great season for us a couple of years ago, and literally we picked him up I think the week before the season started as cover, and suddenly he didn't give up his starting position all season. So you can do it. You can pick up some gems in free agency without getting involved in the panic buying, which does lead to buyer's remorse, and it does lead to players getting cut, and it does lead to dead cap. And I think managing our dead cap this year has been enough, and I think they've said we're just not going to risk taking on some more by panic buying, overpaying for a couple of players, and then suddenly ending up in the same situation again.
Got to remember. Yeah, go on, Laji.
There was a lot of pre-free agency signings. I think there's a lot of people that looked at this free agency class and decided that it was worth keeping their player. I think if we remember Saturday and Sunday, even Friday, there was a lot of, such and such team has re-signed this guy and such and such team has re-signed this guy. That doesn't come out of nowhere. Usually you re-sign your player that you're sure you want to keep a lot earlier than a couple of days before free agency. So I do feel like that frenzy was kind of because there was not actually that many players that were actually worth taking. And then all the price went up significantly. And I think we did the right thing as staying put and seeing it through instead of impulse buying something that we would regret in the future. I'm pretty happy with the way we went in terms of acquiring anyway. There was, apart from the Myles Garrett, trying to get Myles Garrett, I don't think anybody which was a free agent, was worth trying to get. And even he just stayed put. So, you know, yeah, I don't. I'm glad we didn't splash like we did the Hargrave one a couple of years ago, because
So
look
he's
what that got us. You know,
he's been picked up by the Vikings.
yeah, he has, and he signed a massive contract, and
Mm.
it didn't work for us, and it might not work for the Vikings. It might do, but ultimately, I much prefer building through the draft, and as you said, having some project like Omeni, who, like Kevin Givens when he first came to us, and DJ Jones, and all those guys who are now have huge contracts. So, yeah, if you guys want to talk about who we go, who we lost, what we do first?
Yeah. Just before you do that, it was like we were connected, Nigel. I was just going to say, you mentioned the draft. 21 draft picks over the next 2 drafts. And it's like we were talking at the start, maybe it's time to build. But, I mean, for me, Aaron Banks, he signed a big money deal. His replacement's already in-house. Lee's favourite player from last year, the Punisher. So I don't know why people are panicking. You choose between them two. You're choosing Dominic Puny. Maybe we can get another steal in the draft, Lee. What do you reckon? Do you reckon the bar set high now for the offensive line in the draft because of your boy?
I was going to say my favourite signing so far has been Ben Barch. I thought when he played at the back end of the season, he came in, he showed real promise.
Yeah, he played very well, considering. And, you know, he's going to have an angry and hungry Trent Williams next to him.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if we talk all line and we talk free agency and the draft, then I think we need to get a centre. Centre for me is the number one priority. I think McKivitz has improved over the years. He's not great, but he's not terrible either now.
But he's not expensive.
Yeah,
he's cheap.
That's
unlike McGlinchey.
He's cheap. He knows the system.
I think they
let's
might
face
go.
it, I mean, he's only played tackle for 2 seasons.
I was just about to say, Lee, I think they might go for it. They don't have a backup offensive tackle on the depth chart at the moment. So unless Burford's going to kind of get pushed that way, I think they might look at a tackle, which might be disappointing people listening because I'm the same as you. I would like to see. But Shanahan's never really valued spending money.
I thought Nick Zirkle was on the... I thought we'd sign him to a future contract.
Yeah, Zirkle's still there, but I meant people
Yeah.
looking to get rid of Brendel or maybe bringing someone new. I think there was that lad that... Is it Dalman from the Falcons? Everybody wants to
Drew
spend big
Dalman.
on.
All went to the Bears. All the O-line went to the Bears.
I think,
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Well, they've won the off-season again for the 8th season in a row, I believe. So
maybe they win a game as well.
you know,
Well, I mean that's the point. I think you can over rely perhaps on what you've spent in free agency. I think what we've done with free agency in the past is add 1 or 2 key pieces. I don't know necessarily that the Bears entirely rebuilding part of your offense through free agency is the best way to go. I think
Definitely not.
you pick up 1, maybe 2 of those players, not the 3 or 4 they've done for their O-line.
Well,
Maybe
when
they
was
didn't
the
like
last time?
anything coming out the draft, but
When was the last time the team that won the free agency actually was mattered in the season and went on to at least the playoffs? I can't remember any team that has done that or has managed to do that.
what you mean, like the
that's
New
not how
York
it
Jets, Nadji, and stuff like that?
works. Yeah, exactly. That's not how it works. It's not like that. But let's talk about who we lost, maybe.
Yeah.
Who's the biggest name that you're gonna regret losing on this list?
Greenlaw.
Greenlaw,
It's,
yeah.
Greenlaw feels the same as when we got rid of Bowman.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dre is
you
the
kinda knew
biggest
it.
loss.
yeah, I'd agree.
Kinda
He's-
knew it.
But it still hurts.
It
If
still
I could
hurts.
keep one, it would be Greenlaw. out of
Same.
To be honest, out of the ones that we have lost there, the only one I would have kept is Greenlaw.
I
I'm
agree.
quite
Yeah,
happy to
me
let the
too.
others go.
I agree completely. I'm really surprised we didn't. And maybe we did. That's the other side of things that we don't really know. We're not in John's office. Maybe we did try our hardest to keep Dre, but what did you get? 2 years, 55 million. So he's getting paid more than Fred.
3 years.
I
3
think
years,
as well,
3 years.
Nadji, it wasn't just the money. Like you said, obviously, we've got our run insider, Chris Wood, social media. There was a lot of talk that he wanted to go and be the main man, aka Fred Warner, add to the money, add to the challenge. And I think, like you chaps said well at the start of the show, it's the nostalgia. We've been on this such emotional ride with this 49ers team. The fact that there's so many of them gone. But when you analyse them one by one, it was interesting there when you asked the question. All of us straight away went Greenlaw.
Yeah, it's Dre.
You
Of
know?
course, it's Dre. I think especially the way it ended. It was such a getting hurt during
Yeah.
the Super Bowl, which clearly was the big game changer of that particularly game. I still believe 100% that we would have destroyed them with Dre on the field, and we would have won that Super Bowl. And then trying to come back and looking incredible for about a quarter, and then the season being in the books, him sitting. It's just such a sad ending. I kind of wanted him to go on a bit of a high with us, because him and Fred, as we've talked about, Willis Bowman duo kind of thing, and now it's kind of like not that anymore, and it taints a bit of that legacy that those two have together, and it's a bit of a shame. But yeah, I would have tried a bit harder, I think, if I had been John, to keep Dre. But maybe there was nothing he could do, as you say, Paul. Maybe no
Did
matter
you not
what
think
we
it
would
was
have.
a little bit of a red flag, the comment he made about he wants to be the guy? To me, what that suggests
maybe.
is he wants the one who's getting all the publicity. He wants to be in the spotlight, and that's not
Well-
particularly a team player quality, is
No,
it?
but I also understand that when you see what Fred has been able to do, and Fred's doing adverts, and Fred's got a podcast, and Fred is all pro, and of course you want that for yourself, and especially as a competitor, and we know Dre is one heck of a one. That's probably what he aspires to be, the main man in the city, and everybody that it's been referred to, and if it stayed with us, it would always be associated with Fred. And for us, it's great, but as a competitor, I completely understand it.
I think so. I didn't see that as the publicity or the money side of it. The fact that he knows our defense is Fred's defense. He is the quarterback of that defense. And Greenlaw, no matter how good he is, even if he outplays Fred, he'll always be the sidekick to Fred. Now, that's probably unfair to use that word, but he can go and be the Fred. He can go and be the quarterback and rule the defense somewhere else. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad side of ego. I see that as a guy who's matured, seeing what Fred does and saying, I want to do that, but there's only room for one of them on one team. And he can go and be the king of the defense in Denver and make it his team and provide that intensity. And he can't do that because Fred's the top dog in San Francisco.
Well, he's took an interesting piece with him to Denver. So Hufanga, Najee, I'm the same as you. I think of the Hufanga moments. I think of the pick six against the Rams. But the writing was on the wall with the way Mustafa played last year. And I think all of us knew that unless it was a team-friendly deal, and he's
But
got
even
a
then-
decent... Yeah, and like you said, maybe he wanted to go somewhere else, and there's this high turnover. But then Travarius Ward, we kind of knew again, writing was on the wall with the way Ronaldo Green played. And like Lee said, I'm not too upset with some of the people that have gone. And some of my non-Niners followers have been tweeting me, "You've got no team left," and I'm thinking, we have got a
We
team
have.
left. We have got a team left. But
This is
let's
it,
be
this
the
is it.
underdog, chaps. Let's be the underdog this year. I'm all for the underdog run with the easy schedule, as some people said. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't many names on there that I'm losing too much sleep over.
Juice is the one that
Juice
hurts
as
me.
well.
I thought we would have had him for another couple of years, and I think he was only earning like $4 million, and he might say, "Well,
That's
we
a
cleaned
lot.
that off the cap." But Elijah Mitchell's just gone to the Chiefs for 3.5. If you think of him as a running back, or the fact that he does the job of a tight end, he was an absolute bargain. But
Do you
coming
not
to the
think
end, we
they're
were going to have to
different,
move
though,
on.
Gareth?
Yeah,
Do you not think
I
they're going
get-
to a
I
different
get.
personnel group? And now that's maybe why Juice has gone, because we worked great against Man last
He'd
year.
always be useful for that money. I always think he's been underutilized, particularly in the pass game. I think we know he's a old school fullback when it comes to running, and that's got limited success, I think, in the modern NFL. But he was so good at a pass catcher, so good at blocking. Like treat him like a slot receiver or tight end, and people just don't quite know what to do with him. I would have loved to have seen us retain him. Maybe he'd end up with perhaps half the snaps, and he wouldn't be on the field all the time, and we'd do something different. But I still think for the money, he's the one that maybe it hurts perhaps the most. Maybe he's because he's been there longest. It's obviously one of Shanahan's first signings. It's painful to see him go. He's a guy who's given us nothing but 100% year in, year out.
Yeah, I agree. But in terms of football, I think it does kind of make sense. The cutting is a bit
I don't
weird.
want it to make sense.
I know. But, free agency is not over. There's always a way where maybe he just comes back if he doesn't find a team, because who's going to sign a fullback like him? Yeah, but, you put him in the slot and all that. It's like, okay, but we've got Jacob Cowing, which we're paying $270,000. We don't need to pay $4 million. And if you're going to push that button to get good financially in a few years, especially with Brock contract coming, then you got to do it now, and you're going to have to make a hard decision. And that is one that I agree, it's hard to make, but it's probably the right move. And on the field, footballistically, I don't think we will
So,
miss
Lee,
him all that
before
much.
we go any further, Thomas from 49ers Denmark has posted that they did a poll in their group, and it was A, are the 49ers doing the right thing? So 68% agreed. B, not really sure, 32%. Or C, fire Lynch. So using that key that's on the screen, I just want you to drop an A, B, or C in the chat, just so we can poll while we go live. And whilst that's ongoing, Lee, you can say what you were going to say now. Just thought I'd get that out there while Thomas was watching.
Yeah, do you not think that there's a possibility that John Lynch has basically looked at the roster and all the draft picks that he's made over the last couple of years, and we know what Carl's like. He doesn't particularly like to use rookies. It takes people ages to break into the team. Do you think John's been sat there thinking, you know what? I think we've got better players on the roster that are actually starting. And a big thing's being made about how close Kyle is to the players. And he's kind of choosing his favourite players over and over and over again. Yeah. And I'm going to beat this dog yet again and say Sammy Womack was a perfect example. Yeah, he was.
Who had Womack on the bingo card? 37 minutes in.
I've got it right in the middle.
I have a feeling that coming into the new season, we're going to, I mean, we've got no choice now anyway, but we're going to see a lot more newer players actually getting some game time.
I agree. And I think it stems from last year, right? Because we had to play the rookies, and all of the rookies all but excelled at what they did. And maybe just put a little bit more confidence in what they did instead of waiting for them to show you. You just pick the players you think are going to be good, and then just throw them in the game and see what happens. You don't find superstars, rookies, by keeping them on your bench and not letting them play. So, I think it's this balance where we like kind of nice to our players and kind of ruthless, and I think this is the new direction we're going. And I agree. I think we're going to see a lot more of Jacob Cowing, a lot more Ricky Pearsall next year. And there's players that have showed us that they can play football, and they're pretty decent players.
It was a bit of a change of draft philosophy, because other than Brock Purdy, there's very little out of the previous 2 years, and we were quite comfortable because we kept saying, "Oh, it's great, we're drafting for a year down the line," which sounds good, except when those year down the line, those players like Danny Gray, Cameron Latu, others that we picked, others we picked are then just still can't break into the team and get discarded. And I think we went into several drafts thinking, well, we'll move up. There isn't room for these 10 draft picks to possibly get a chance of playing. Why pick 10 players when you know then they're not going to get a chance to probably even make the game day rosters? But we kept doing it, and we kept sort of spreading the net wide, and I think hoping for the kind of a bit of the boom and bust that we've had with drafts previously, which is we've picked up absolute studs and guys who play a handful of snaps and are then gone. And I think last year we've potentially changed that to let's go for guys who can play now, and then maybe they won't necessarily be the high risk, high reward players, but let's get them in the team, and let's get players who've played a lot of football, I think, rather than players who are just really good measurables or really good on the combine. people who've just played a lot of football. And I think that has changed. And I think that's maybe why we ended up with a draft class that Shanahan, whether he was forced to, but there were players who were just perhaps more NFL ready because of the players we selected.
I mean, before we move on, I was just going to say, like, Cooper Kupp has been cut by the Rams. I mean, they weren't going to pay him, but they've paid Devante Adams. Demarcus Robinson, who we've picked up, had more snaps, targets, and receiving yards than Kupp did in the 2 playoff games. He's a solid signing. And I remember last week we were all talking about, should we go live on Monday? Any breaking news because of the Hargrave? And I must admit, on Monday afternoon, I was thinking, we're not making a splash in free agency. We won't need to go live on Monday night. And I'm kind of glad we didn't, because Monday night was when all the kind of players were being released. But I'm feeling excited. But I can see you've got something loaded up there, Nadji, on the bottom of the screen. So do you want me to put that on now? So I will add that in.
Go for it, because that's the thing. It's just like we're 2 days into free agency. It's nowhere near finished. We still got till end of April to sign players, and way before the draft. But according to Jason Hurley, and if you don't follow Jason, he's a cap guru and he's looking at the Niners very much in depth, and he knows his stuff. We had him on the show. Super nice guy.
Good friend of the show.
Hello, Jason, if you're listening to us. But apparently, because the cap gets restructured per team depending on God knows what, we've got 42 million in cap space. Obviously, Brock's
enough Freddos for you, Nadji. Don't worry about that, son.
That's a lot of Freddos. There's a couple of Freddos in nowadays economy. That for American people, Freddos is a bit of chocolate that should cost like 20p, but it costs about £1.50 these days. Anyway, so we can sign somebody, and I'm sure we're going to keep signing these players like DeMarcus Robinson and Luke Farrell and all that kind of stuff. And the rosters are going to build with those players that are going to come in, plus the 10 or 11 draft pick that we have this year. But also, all this free agency period and the way we've attacked it makes me really excited about draft this season. I cannot wait to see what we get and who we get, because I'm pretty sure, as Lee said, it's going to be an NFL player ready, and we're going to see them on the field maybe week 1, week 2. It's going to be exciting to see new people in Niners gear and this new team. It's still going to be the Niners. It's still going to be Brock Purdy to CMC and Brock Purdy to Josh Kittle. Let's not forget that.
Over under Nadji, the 49ers will take 9 players in the draft. Oh, hang on, we've only got 10 picks, no 11 this year. The 49ers take 8 players.
11 pick.
No, it's only 10 this year. We forfeited one for next
Talk
season.
about putting them on the spot. It's supposed to be free agency
I'm smashing
tonight.
the over on that. We're going to pick probably 11, maybe more than that.
What, with 10 picks? How are we going to pick 11?
Well, you trade back.
down.
You trade your 4th for a 5th and a 6th.
fair
don't you?
enough. Fair enough.
Come
Fair
on,
enough.
Lee. Oh,
I'll give you that
the
one.
guy who doesn't understand the draft works with his 53 million mocks in his back pocket.
I'll let you off.
What were you going to say, Gareth?
You've teed me up with that salary cap update for something that struck me today, which this is going to make me sound absolutely crazy, but there's a method to this, and that's every team, when you sign the quarterback and then you sign these players and you get better and you get better, you end up in this ever decreasing circle where you've got to keep pushing the money down the line to get more and more money. What about taking all your dead cap in 1 year, and then when we sign Brock, you give him the massive signing bonus and you don't prorate it, you just dump it and say we're going to dump it all in this year. So suddenly you don't end up with a quarterback whose cap hit goes up and up and up and up. You end up with a quarterback whose cap hit goes down and down and down, and you're still paying him. And it's completely against what everybody does. And I suddenly thought, what if we did that with a whole load of young players and just signed the quarterback and said, nope, you can have your 50 million signing bonus and we'll take all of that hit in 1 year.
Well,
Because
funny
we
you
can do it.
mentioned that, Gareth. Some people were taking the release of players, the lack of spending in free agency, that we've got no money. And Lee's best mate, Jed York, has got tons of money. We make lots of money, the 49ers. It's about, as you've just said there, what they want to pay out and the change of dynamics. And that would be interesting, because we talked last week
bucks a trend.
about Brock Purdy being offered, and it was an unreliable source. And Lee has since put a message in the group to say, check your sources. So Chris, Connor, do better, because I'm coming for you. I'm only joking. But it turns out that Brock Purdy, they haven't even had the contract negotiation yet. Now, that is an interesting thought, Gareth Ellis. Just think that is very sensible. Could you imagine, Najee, if we actually book the trend and Brock gets cheaper year on year after this?
It wouldn't surprise me if we did a little bit kind of a Patrick Mahomes contract where you make a really long one and it's not actually that much, but yeah, kind of thing. Not like Josh Allen just signed. But essentially the Bills did that last year. They trimmed a lot of the fat, excuse the expression. They kept getting competitive, and now they can pay their superstar QB the way he should be paid, and they probably still are going to be competitive for the foreseeable.
Didn't he have like 4 years left on his contract, and they've just repaid him or something?
What we've done is
Isn't
really
it something
smart,
crazy like that?
and we're looking at it. Yeah, I know, but as I said, I think especially some Dre and a Huff and the Juice cuts and loss, they hurt now, but come back this time in 6 months and look at what the team is like and how we're performing and who we have on it. And I think we'll feel pretty good on where we are. And we'll still have probably some money to the side to maybe acquire a trade pick, somebody that's gone somewhere and it's not going well on that team. And we can cash in and get a super cheap contract for a year or two where the team is already paying half of it. And get CMC. Just like Emmanuel Sanders that we did. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the season even more now because it's super interesting.
You do wonder though, if we've got all this money, we didn't necessarily have to make all of these cuts, did we? That's where you suddenly think, well, hang on,
Sure.
we've lost everybody off the D line. Let's keep Malik Collins. Let's at least have a little bit of a veteran presence and something there, because
we
we
re-signed
didn't have
Kevin
to.
Givens.
Well, of course. Well, we're
The
fine
new
then.
Dante
Kevin
Johnson.
The new Dante Johnson.
The
Kevin
limpet.
Givens, yeah.
Yeah, it makes you think.
You're on mute,
something's
Paul.
up.
It's all right. I just you're right though. Like when Salah was here last time, the strength of us was the depth on that defensive line, and I can see why people are looking at all these players going in one go. But I don't know. Maybe I'm accused of being too ultra positive, but I don't see the negative side of it at all, and I'm excited for the draft. Are we going to do the live draft show, like the live mock draft show? What we do?
The
We
mock
will
draft.
at some point.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah,
time,
so
haven't we? But
we will.
Yeah.
And
too, it's fun.
you
It's
reminded
super
us there,
fun,
Paul. We will do the live Zoom call as well during the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Should we have a look at who we signed and see what? I really like it.
That would be a good
There's couple
idea.
yeah, I know, right? So Trey Brown today
So funny enough, Kevin Givens isn't on that list.
is not, but we
should have
have
been.
signed him. He should have been indeed.
Can't get the staff, Lee.
The Trey Brown signing is the obligatory sign the Seattle Seahawk every year just to make sure we know what's going on over there or something. I don't know. I actually quite like Trey Brown. I think he's a good corner. We need a corner because Walt is gone. So that's good. That's just good signing. And it's probably super cheap as well. So that's good. DeMarcus Robinson, same again. Sign the Rams just to see what they're doing over there. That's what they do every year. But as you said, I think that's a really good sign. Kind of a Conley upgrade kind of thing, like a player that can actually have a big
How
impact.
dare you?
I know, I'm really sorry, but I think he's going to play a ton, and that's really good. And then I actually really like the Luke Gifford and Luke Farrell, the two Lukes signing, because it's very, very specific, and it's special team signing. Those people are actually pretty good and play almost exclusively special team. So there's clearly a change of direction, a shift into how we do things. The sign players actually know what they're doing on special team, and so I'm expecting.
We don't do that.
path. We don't do that over here. This is going to be weird.
It's a
we might
change
actually
of
score a
culture.
touchdown.
I think the Luke Farrell is what explains why Juszczyk wasn't cut at the time. I think it was to make sure we had him before potentially then saying to Tech, this is what you're going to have to take to stay with the team, and if not, you're getting cut. Because I think that he's a blocking tight end from what I've read, because I've never heard his name before I saw that we'd signed him, and I can see that is potentially one of the missing. We've been looking for that second tight end for ages, and we know we need to free up George to be a pass catcher rather than always being the guy laying out the blocks. So I think that's a good signing, and I think that's a targeted signing. We've gone for a specific guy with a specific skill set.
But also,
I thought we might go for Ingram, actually, Evan Ingram.
But if you look at the
expensive
positions specific, we lost Elijah Mitchell, running back. We signed a running back. We lost Deebo Samuel, so we signed a wide receiver. We lost Juice. We signed Luke Farrell, which is kind of same player, right? We lost a guard, signed a guard. Lost a linebacker, signed a linebacker. Lost a safety, signed a safety. That goes back to what Lee was saying. I genuinely think we have made an assessment of the team, and having time off, not having to play up to the Super Bowl, allows you to do that. And we've actually looked at the depth chart and thinking, we've got a good team here. We can compete with what we've got in the building, minus those names.
Yeah.
And we'll be fine with draft, with maybe the addition of a couple of players in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. See.
To add on what Gareth was saying, Nadji, I don't think he's just been brought in for the blocking, though. If you cast your mind back to when our offense was clicking and it was on fire, we led the NFL with a 55% success rate out of the 12 personnel in 2023. And I think that's why he's been brought in. It's been well documented that Shanahan wants to play that 2 tight end set. And I don't just think it's for the blocking, but I think you're right, Gareth. I think before Juice was released, he was probably thought of more of just a special teamers, and maybe he could go in there. But the fact that Juice has been released, I think we're going to see a different offense, personally. And I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Tyler Warren incoming. Called it.
And who else is coming in, Nadji? Who else is coming in from the draft?
Third round. We all know who we're picking.
I think there's going to be trenches in the draft, certainly. Just looking at where the gaps are, but I can certainly see. Maybe our first 2 picks. Do you think we might trade back? People have said it's a deep pass rush, deep D line class.
I think we might.
Maybe we think
we might.
15 back to 15, 16, 18, something like that. I think we can still potentially pick up players then.
I think we might not budge at 11, depending on what's left. But if the player that we want, say it's Tyler Warren, for whatever reason, George is not getting any younger, and that guy's a freak, we'll probably stay and pick that, I would imagine. But then if the players you really want are gone, why not? Just drop back as far as you can and get some capital and just pick a player that you like in early in the second maybe. Or late in the first. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
So I've got to say, I wouldn't be at all surprised if our first 4 picks are all D linemen.
It's possible.
I was going to say, Lee, a name that's on there that nobody's mentioned yet, talks Jameis Winston for the backup QB role.
There's a reason no one's mentioned that.
For entertainment purposes, it would be good, though. I'm not saying we see him on the field.
I kind of like that.
Yeah,
I don't mind it.
We could do worse out of what's available. Yeah. We might pay 100 million to Sam Darnold, for example.
But I mean, we're talking about positions of need. There was a few people, Nadji, that were surprised that we re-signed Mason for the tender that he was given. Is it a second round tender? So if a team comes in now, they have to give up the second round pick. Tender, $5 million. He seems to be expensive, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mason go during the draft. So to answer Lee's question earlier, when you said so many picks and we only had so many picks, maybe Mason goes during the draft and maybe we get something back for him. I don't know. I hope we keep him. It'd be good to see Garendo, Mason, CMC, and your new man crush, who we will be drafting. That would be an epic running back room. I don't know if the NFL's ready for that.
All about Isaac Garendo.
I said Garendo there.
Did you?
Yeah, my internet probably cut out, to be fair. I'm forgetting about Patrick Taylor, which I'm doing a disservice to the Discord MVP, but you know.
I mean, the re-signing of Patrick Taylor is kind of ominous for Cam Scatterbu, unfortunately, because now we do have 3 people on the roster. We'll see. We'll see.
It might mean Shanahan is stopped from wasting a 3rd or 4th round pick on a running back, which is kind of a tradition now.
It's not,
surely.
if it's Cam Scatterbu, it's not a waste.
So, Rob, I ideally hope we do.
And
because
I mean,
Charles
Von Miller's
Omenihu
still out there, right?
is still, yeah.
There's still
Omenihu.
there's a lot of good players still around in the tier 2, the non-panic buys. There's
There's a
good
decent
players out there.
guard. Mickey Beckton's still there.
Okay,
Who did he play for, Lou?
The Eagles.
And has he got any links to Stanford? Sorry, I just had to ask that question because it's what we do on this show.
No, not this
Oregon
one.
and Stanford,
Not this
you're
one.
in. You're in. Sorry for everyone. But
But yeah, there's some good players there, especially edge rushers. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see Charles Omenihu come back in.
so Red Jet, we'll let you
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
She's just dropped a message there saying she's just jumping on now. I'm sure she will watch back.
She's
as I
blaming
said-
work, but what she's really been doing, she's been out with the drone again.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll get Red Jet back on. 'Cause I know a lot of people were happy when Red Jet joined us. Because, chaps, first day of the league season, and we're going to have to start ramping up. We've been getting away with one show for the last few weeks. We're going to have to start upping that. Now, I haven't done any
Off
mock
season
drafts yet. Yeah, we're in full mode now, Gareth. So Lee'll be getting that mock draft simulator out.
And
free
there's
agency tracker.
Again.
there's some spaces to be won. So for the first time, there's starting positions, certainly on the defensive side and the offensive side, that are there for players to be drafted into. So
It's going to make roster cut down day interesting, especially to our predictions.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
So we're not finishing just yet, but I'm going to open up the rabbit hole. So I want to say any final thoughts. I'm going to go over to Gareth first. So we're approaching the end of the show, but obviously I've factored in a rabbit hole potential for you to kind of give us some final thoughts. So
just
over to
very
you,
quick,
Gareth.
I thought since it's the first day of the league year, I will come out with a bold prediction for the season to come. And that bold prediction is D Winters by about week 8 or 9 will have us saying, Dre who? Do you remember Greenlaw? Yeah, it wasn't that good. I think D Winters is going to be the next guy who's going to come out of our linebacker production line. Back in the last season,
I agree.
I was beginning to think, you know what, we can lose Greenlaw.
Well, we've got your player watch started for this year, Gareth.
Totally.
So that is
Well,
definitely-
there might be a draft crash, but there we say. But that was the one position where I thought, yeah, we're okay with that. Same with Mustafa and Fangas, 2 positions. Anyway, there we go. That was what I was going to do. First day of the league year, bold prediction for the season.
Any final thoughts from you, Nadji?
Boom. Abordi.
Yeah, I've just put everyone
Day 1. Wow.
on the spot. Yeah.
Well, I think the question the viewers
know,
want to
yeah.
know.
Well, we're gonna have to try and find a body to combat that. No, yeah, we're gone.
I was just going to say you've showed us the new puppy, you've showed the cat. What animal's going to join next? Nadji Kara.
No, that's it. That's the only 2. I do have a 5-year-old, but she's asleep, so that's not gonna happen anytime soon. But yeah, any thought on Happy New Year League, whatever it is. As I said, I think I said it a couple of times. I'm excited about this year. It's kind of new. It's kind of not. It's Saleh's back and all that kind of stuff. So it's old and new, and I'm super excited about the season, about the draft. Having a draft that actually matters is nice instead of having to just watch round 2 because we don't have a first pick and it's boring. And no, this is really exciting to see who is going to be the next superstars, and Dear Winters, Mustafa, and all these people we're going to be singing praise all season. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. It's super cool. Don't panic, people. Don't panic. It's March. We play football in September. Don't worry.
Over to you, Lee. Any final thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, well, it's feeling like it's a whole new world out there, and it's got the vibe of Phoenix from the Flames about it. So, like I said, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm also excited. I'm excited what's going to come. especially in the draft.
Well, I just want to say, Najee, thank you for playing along. I had some fun this week with the Grinch being released by the 49ers. And obviously you made that appearance last week. And I just want to say that I have enjoyed the Discord and the group on Facebook. I think it's been quite good that when all this news started breaking on Monday, I mean, crikey, trying to do some work in between catching up with all the messages. So Chris and Connor, you have definitely put your flag in the ground as the ultimate insiders. What I will say is trust the process. Don't worry, people. But as always, chaps, thank you for joining me. I have had a blast.
Thank you, Paul.
But just want to say thank you to everyone who joined us in the chat. As we said at the start, please like this video, subscribe, tell all your friends about us. We do really appreciate it. I promise we will be back next week. So make sure we keep those notifications switched on. And all that is left for me to say is trust the process and go Niners.
Go Niners.
Go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, deep Clark. Garrison Hurt, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with.